Hey guys, so something really awesome. We were sent a pair of Kalkal women's deck boots to test out the product, give it a review. I'm excited because I have been needing a pair of boots for going on the boat, going offshore, and we have a perfect opportunity to test this product in this video because we are going to be going down to the Florida Keys and fishing in Marathon. We're going to be doing some lobstering, some fishing. I'm really excited to jump down there, and what a perfect opportunity to have an awesome pair of boots with me. So let me go ahead and open up this package. These boots are advertised as being waterproof and very durable. So here's our picture of the box. Let's take a look. I'm typically a 6.5, but I wanted to err on the side of it fitting, so I ended up getting the 7. Now already, this is actually a very durable feeling boot. It is a little heavy, so that probably just plays into the construction of it, that it is thick, durable material. The inside is very soft and comfortable. It is that nice padded fabric. The bottoms are this very cool traction. They should be slip resistant. Perfect for being on a boat. All right, let's try it on, see how it feels. Oh, that fits perfectly. Yeah, I chose right going with the 7. I'm real glad I did. That feels wonderful on my foot. That is Kalkal. They have some awesome photos up on Instagram of it being used in different proximities. Some people use these for gardening. Some people use these for hunting. A lot of my outfits end up consisting of some kind of gray and light blue. So I chose these. Let me show you guys. Look at this. My friend Big Mama heard me talking and came to the dock to say hello. Hey, Big Mama. They're very comfortable. So that's great. I'll give you guys a very honest review of these boots as I go to use them. And let's go ahead and take them down to the Keys. What better way to test them out?
Welcome back to another episode of Fishing with 𝐃𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐿. Today, we're switching it up in a big way. We're heading down to Marathon Key in the Florida Keys for a mix of lobstering, fishing, and a little gear talk along the way. The Keys are always a special trip, and this one had all the makings of a great adventure. Clear water, tropical vibes, and the thrill of chasing after my first Florida spiny lobster. We had the pleasure of joining our friends John and Regina, along with her dad Fred, for their vacation in the Keys. The house we'd be calling home for the next 5 days sat right on the water at the entrance of a canal, so boats were constantly cruising in and out. Of course, the first thing I did was start exploring around the house, checking out what kind of fish and wildlife were right beneath us. Brightly colored parrotfish, coral everywhere, little sea roaches scuttling around, and in one pocket of water, a huge group of jellyfish. I learned something pretty wild. When they're flipped upside down like that, they're actually feeding. By exposing the algae inside them to the sun, the jellyfish basically photosynthesize, living off that energy and snacking on zooplankton to grow. Pretty incredible. Once we loaded up the boat with snorkeling gear, drinks, and snacks, we were ready to head out. John must have forgotten the first rule of running a boat in a hat, because his went flying the second we got on plane. Don't worry, we circled back, scooped it up, and this time he wore it backwards. Getting ready to lobster meant some firsts for me too. My first pair of fins, a mask that fit my face just right, and my first chance to try snorkeling in open water. And I'll be honest, nothing could have prepared me for how big and exposed it feels out there. You can't help but think about what might be swimming around with you. My first dive down had me a little rattled, but I wasn't about to let my nerves run.
It's the first lobster.
There's probably 20 of them down here.
On camera. He's almost big enough.
Good job, 𝐃𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐿.
Way to go.
He's so cute.
We got to another spot, I steadied myself, dove down again, and when I came back up, I had my very first lobster in hand. I can't tell you what an amazing feeling it was to conquer that nervousness about diving in. And even though that first lobster was too small to keep, I still had one in my hand, and that was a huge win. We bounced around a few different spots, but the lobsters just weren't turning up. And before we could really dig in, the weather started turning on us and pushed us off the water. But that wasn't going to stop Jerry and me. We grabbed our rods and went right back at it from the shore. This time, I sourced my own bait, scooping up a little crab and putting it on the hook. Before I could even get my line in, Jerry got broken off by something big. And sure enough, that crab was too good for a schoolmaster snapper to pass up. Not a bad trade. After that, I couldn't find another crab, so I busted up some clams from the seawall and used the meat. Throwing the shells in the water helped chum things up, and it wasn't long before I pulled in a grunt. The colors of Florida fish never cease to amaze me. But honestly, I couldn't stop thinking about snorkeling. I had to get back in the water, and the water by the house was the perfect spot to get a little more comfortable exploring below the surface. We put up a dive flag so that passing boats would know I was in, and everyone helped keep an eye out from above. There's this little product, anti-fog spray, that keeps goggles from fogging underwater, and after giving that a try and strapping my fins on, I was back in. This time, I slowed down. I took my time and just enjoyed the underwater world. I carried my net and tickle stick with me just in case. On the end of the tickle stick, there's a measuring gauge, and I've been told to hold on to it while diving. Otherwise, a passing fish could mistake it for a lure. In true 𝐃𝐢𝐬𝐜𝐸 fashion, I found myself distracted looking for treasures, but I also learned a valuable lesson: how the direction of my fins can stir up sediment and cloud the water. I practiced keeping the water as clear as possible, and man, it was fascinating. While I was down there, I got to watch clouds of tiny baitfish schooling all around me, flashing silver in the sunlight, and even a little hermit crab that spooked as I went by. Corals I'd only ever seen in my saltwater tanks were now all around me in massive numbers. Then I spotted the best thing I could have hoped for: a crack in the rock with lobster antennae sticking out. My first attempt just drove them deeper into the hole, so I let them reset and explored the mangrove roots nearby. It was surreal to see just how much life was tucked away just under the surface, right beneath the spots I usually fish from above. But I was not leaving empty-handed. I went back, coaxed one of the lobster out, and sure enough, the gauge showed it was still too small. The practice was worth it though, and while I was pulling that one out, I caught a glimpse of a much bigger lobster right beside him. That one became my target. After releasing the smaller one, I worked up the nerve to try a new technique, this time daring to reach my arm deep into the crevice past my elbow. The gamble paid off with a lobster I knew was a keeper.
You go, girl.
Unbelievable.
You're going to eat lobster tonight.
Let's go home.
There you go, 𝐃𝐢𝐬𝐜𝐸𝐸𝐸.
That's probably a keeper. It looks good.
That's
Nice job.
That's a good one.
Oh, he's definitely a keeper.
I was in awe of this beautiful and tasty creature. Just like catching a new species of fish, I was proud to cross another target species off my list. Not only is lobster a rare treat, but this one I could proudly say I caught myself for the dinner plate. On top of that, I was looking forward to the next challenge, learning how to clean this big crustacean. With the break in the weather and the sun back out, seeing a keeper lobster in the boat gave everyone a boost of motivation. This time, Fred and I hit the water while the rest of the crew manned the boat, and let me tell you, if I'm still as adventurous as Fred is when I'm in my 80s, I'll consider myself lucky. That's when I learned a new trick, dragging for lobster. You hold onto a rope as the boat pulls you along, scanning the bottom for antennae sticking out of holes. Net and stick in hand, you're ready to drop off quick if you spot gold. Instead of lobster, I found a different kind of treasure, a batfish. They're a type of anglerfish with bodies designed for crawling around on the sea floor, and hands down one of the most unique fish I have ever seen. Meanwhile, John and Jerry had jumped in and found an abandoned lobster trap holding an undersized lobster and a stunning angelfish. I'd only ever seen angelfish in aquariums, so spotting one in the wild was really something special. Even with a broken leg, Jerry managed to paddle around with one flipper, maybe feeling a little extra secure thanks to the anti-shark bands we wore on our ankles. I spotted yet another quirky little batfish before we finally decided it was time to call it a day. When you spend the day out here, the water kind of becomes your playground. One minute you're snorkeling down looking for lobster, the next you're climbing back on board just to raid the snack cooler. Half the fun is pointing out what you see, whether it's a batfish, a ray cruising by, or even somebody's flipper hitting somebody else in the face. Clear water, good friends, and a cold beer. It doesn't get much better than that. I can't think of a better way to spend a vacation. Once we got back in, it was time to clean that lobster. Cleaning the lobster was a whole new ballgame for me. Unlike fish, you're not working with scales and fillets. You're working with armor. The first step is twisting the tail away from the body. That's where most of the meat is, and you'll know you've done it right if you get a clean break without too much mess. Then comes the part you definitely don't want to skip, the vein. Just like with shrimp, lobster have a digestive tract that runs along the tail. Jerry showed me how you can actually use a piece of the antenna as a skewer to clean it out. Not exactly the most glamorous part of the process, but worth it when you're sitting down to lobster you pulled from the water yourself. If you're willing to take the extra step, there's also good meat in the knuckles. And let me tell you, the spiny lobster earns its name. There's no way I was getting into those without gloves. By the end of it, I had my first tail cleaned and ready for eating later. I'll admit, it wasn't the prettiest job, but it was mine. And the satisfaction of knowing I could catch and clean my own lobster, that was the real reward. But our day wasn't over yet. With the lobster chilling in the fridge and the snorkel gear packed away, we brought out the rods and made an attempt at the tarpon we could see rolling at the mouth of the canal. The thing about this spot is, just about every group that stays here fishes it hard. Those tarpon, they've seen every trick in the book, and they weren't falling for ours. We didn't catch anything that evening, but watching the sunset across the water was reward enough. And besides, tomorrow, we'd hook into a fish worth keeping. But our morning didn't exactly go as planned. We woke up to crashing thunder and lightning that rolled over us for hours. The storm was so bad, it even knocked the power out for a while. It's a good thing we had already made our coffee. The funny thing about Florida is, one minute it's severe storms, and the next, the sky opens up like nothing ever happened. As soon as the sun popped back out, we jumped on the chance to finally get back on the water. This was also the day I got to test out my Kalkal deck boots, and I was excited to put them through their paces. My first impression? I loved how well they gripped the deck of the boat. I even took the chance to climb up on the poling platform for the first time, and wow, the view, just a few feet higher, was incredible. From up there, I could see sand patches and coral heads that made me want to grab my fins and dive back in. Since we're in the market for a boat ourselves, it was pretty cool to experience a different perspective and start thinking about what features matter. It was John, Regina, Jerry, and me on the boat, and while none of us were convinced the weather would hold, we figured, worst case, we'd get rained out and maybe hit a tiki bar. Luckily, the skies stayed clear long enough to get us out fishing. One of the highlights was running under the 7 Mile Bridge, the iconic stretch of highway into the Keys. You've seen it in pictures and videos, but being there in person is something else entirely. The sheer size of it makes you feel small, and at the same time, it's like a gateway welcoming you into the heart of the Keys. Once we cleared the bridge, I noticed the water wasn't quite as postcard perfect turquoise you picture when you think of the Keys. The storm had left it a little darker, stirred up, almost moody in a way. It wasn't that crystal clear view down to the sandbars, but honestly, that gave it a different kind of beauty. After a quick fuel stop, we got to work, trying different spots and baits. Jerry and I were throwing the scented 𝐃𝐢𝐬𝐜𝐸 super baits, and those curly tails had a ton of action in the water. The fish clearly approved, because before long, Jerry hooked into something big on the bottom.
And people are watching. He's trying to get to a hole, so.
Oh, you want me to turn around and chase him?
Yeah. That's a good bottom fish. Kagan, get this drink away from me.
Yeah, I can't see where it is.
Come up.
Can I stop?
Yeah, I see it's coming up.
Oh, what is
The nice snapper. Do we have a bag or anything?
Oh my God.
Grouper.
Grouper. Okay, I'll take that.
Groupers.
There we go.
Alright.
Look at that fish.
Need
Awesome.
to check, see if they're in season.
Beautiful.
Was that a gag?
Look at that.
I noticed a red.
A red?
Yep.
I don't have a phone.
Nice red.
You got fish rules?
Yeah, I do. Alright.
If it's in season, that is a keeper.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
You can put that on our drinks. huh?
Phew, he stinks.
We
All right, here we go. Red.
I saw those two guys holding red.
Open.
open size 20 inches. Just
20
20
inches.
inches, John.
He's got to be 20.
Here we go. You can see him on my arm.
He's 22,
22.
23. Nice job.
There Jerry had managed to keep the grouper from diving into structure and wrestled him up to the surface. A pretty incredible feat given the setup he was using.
That's a good memory. On a 2500.
It's in his throat.
Good driving, Regina. So, baby, when the little pinfish and little peckerheads are nibbling at your
So
bait,
put him in
they
this.
attract fish like that.
We got him on ice and even managed to pull in a couple more fish before moving on to another spot.
John's on. See?
Oh, John, yes!
Oh, snagged it.
Oh! There we go, John.
Please be a keeper.
Got it coming up.
Yes!
Yes.
The skies stayed a little dark, but not enough to push us off the water, so we kept casting lines. Jerry on the CUDA.
Little one. And dollar signs. Got sent to Yamaha.
Oh, what do we got? Oh, CUDA. Oh, thank you. It's the best release I can have on a CUDA.
Hey, look at these over here.
By the time we decided to call it a day and head back in, we had plenty to be proud of. After rinsing off the rods, it was time to clean the grouper. I've cleaned some longer fish before, but this was definitely the stockiest fish I'd ever worked on. It was tough to break down, but I'll take any chance I can get to clean a fish. For me, it's all about the practice and the experience. I know it's pretty typical when cleaning a fish to work on one side to completion before flipping it over and getting to the other fillet. But I've found it easier to start my cleaning process by making that first initial cut behind the gills and down the back on both sides of the fish first. When I take a fillet off one side without doing this, sometimes the lack of body mass contorts the fish and makes me cut into it wrong. So I've just decided to do what works for me. I'm sure a lot of you watching have your own techniques. Maybe some of you swear by electric knives, maybe others have little tricks that save time or help get cleaner cuts. I'd love to hear about them, so drop them in the comments. Every time I clean a fish, I learn something new, and maybe next time it'll be a tip I got from one of you. Now, I can't take credit for catching this grouper. Jerry did all the heavy lifting there, but I was grateful for the chance to get hands-on with it at the cleaning table. Anytime I get to work on a new species, it's an opportunity to learn, and the only way to get better at it is by doing. As I was working through this grouper and then the snapper, I realized how different each species really is when it comes to cleaning. The grouper had that thick, dense body that made me work for every cut, while the snapper's structure was completely different. More streamlined, easier to get through, but with a ton of little bones you have to watch out for. Every fish is a new lesson in anatomy, and that's what makes it so fun to me. You never stop learning, and you never stop getting better. I can't wait to find out what it's like to clean a flounder. Aside from having to keep an eye out for a few hungry pelicans and seagulls that looked way too interested in our fresh fillets, we got everything cleaned up and packed into the fridge without losing a bite to the birds. By the time we rinsed down the gear and called it done, I was more than ready to wind down and recharge. Tomorrow promised another full day of adventure. Back in the water, back on the hunt for lobster, and I couldn't wait to see what else we'd find. Learning the ins and outs of lobstering meant really getting to know the tools. The tickle stick might just look like a long, thin rod, but there's a reason it works. Lobsters are social animals. They huddle together under rocks and ledges for security, and when another lobster wants in, it bumps and nudges its way past the others. They'll scoot over, make room, and let him in. So when you slide that tickle stick in behind a lobster and give a little nudge, you're basically imitating another lobster trying to squeeze in. And if you're lucky, that's what gets them moving out into your net. We found a spot about 10 feet down that held a few lobster, and I gave it everything I had. But between my asthma, the excitement, and trying to control my breathing, I just couldn't keep myself calm and steady enough in the water. That's where Jerry comes in. Even with a broken leg, he managed to dive down and give it a shot. The first lobster bolted straight out of the net, but he was quick to recover and land it. Unfortunately, it was undersized, so back it went. At our next stop, I strapped on a weighted belt and was determined to give it another try. This time, I managed to get down face to face with a lobster and work the tickle stick just right. Jerry was right there as backup, but I pulled it off. I coaxed it out, guided it into the net, and hugged it tight to my chest before it could spring free. It measured just shy of legal size, so back it went as well, but I didn't care. I had gone down myself, tickled one out, and for me, that was a huge win. The joy of these moments is something I'll carry with me forever. I got to dive in an incredible place, spend time with good friends and my better half, and even got some first-hand experience working for my own lobster. Snorkeling and swimming underwater was better than I ever could have imagined. Everyone kept saying, "Now imagine it on a perfect day with crystal clear water." But honestly, I loved this experience exactly how it was. Our final day of the trip, we made one last push to get out fishing. We were hoping for more grouper and snapper, but the reality was a little different. Grunts and barracuda seemed to be the only thing willing to bite. With just one more lobster to clean, courtesy of Jerry, it wasn't quite the haul we'd pictured filling the cooler with. Still, we were grateful for the meal we'd be able to take home, and we'd already had plans that night to feast on lobster once we were back in Okeechobee. Every trip teaches me something new. This one gave me the chance to push myself in ways I hadn't before. Whether it was working through the nerves of diving down, practicing the technique of coaxing lobster out of their holes, or even learning how to clean one for the first time. It wasn't the biggest haul, but honestly, the memories and lessons are worth way more than a cooler packed full of tales. And instead of feeling like the trip is over, it just makes me want to come back, dive deeper, and see what else I can accomplish next time. And one more lobster meant one more chance for me to practice cleaning. I'm still not sure I'll ever get used to the tail cleaning process, but hey, I can say I've done it. With tail and knuckles in the bag, we were set and ready to load the truck for the haul home. As for the Kalkal deck boots, I can honestly say that I was pleasantly surprised. They kept me steady on the boat, the soft padding kept my feet comfortable, and I wore them through everything from rough water to fish cleaning without issue. Going in, I promised to give an honest review, and outside of getting a little squeaky when wet, I've got no complaints. These boots are going to be sticking with me on future adventures. The ride home was bittersweet, but we had so much to be thankful for, and lobster tail waiting for us. Of course, on the way back, we had to make a classic stop at Worldwide Sportsman to admire the tarpon swimming in the water.
So Kagan was in her office editing some of her videos while I prepped the lobster and got them in the oven. And she was asking how I did it because she saw the meat kind of exploded on top of the lobster. There's tons of different methods. Lobster's great on the grill. It's good in the oven. I like to cut the top of the shell with these shears. These shears are from one of my grandparents, so it's been in the family for years. A really sturdy pair of shears, and I cut the shell, spread the lobster shell open, then I pull the meat out and kind of lay it on top of the shell. And I use the shell as an indicator. When it turns that nice orangey color, that's when I know the tail is done. So the timer just went off. I've extended it like 4 minutes, making sure it was just right.
Whoa.
We're gonna say that's good.
Those look so good.
You can see how that tail is really showing. Now that one has a little bit of the uncooked color, but maybe it's because it's next to the tail. Usually they're a little more spread out, but that's a good indicator that they're good and done.
They're beautiful.
This is also a piece of the lobster that a lot of people don't save. They actually waste it. I would say 90% of my friends would. The antenna comes off of this, and you call this part the knuckle. In fact, this is what they rub against their carapace that makes that crazy noise underwater. But there's a decent amount of meat in those, especially when you get into larger lobster. These are just marginally big enough, but seeing as we didn't kill it this weekend, it was definitely worth taking the knuckles.
chunk of meat. And that wraps up our time in the Keys. It wasn't always smooth seas or easy catches, but it was an adventure I'll never forget. Lobster dives, fishing with friends, and plenty of lessons learned along the way. If you enjoyed this trip, please give the video a like. It really helps the channel grow. We release a video once every 2 weeks, so don't forget to ring that notification bell so you'll know when the videos drop. Leave a comment and let me know your own favorite Keys memory, or even your go-to bait for fishing down here. And if you haven't already, subscribe so you can join us for the next adventure. Thanks again for watching, and as always, until next cast.